Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul is the fourth and final live-action Wimpy Kid film. This is from 2017, it's directed by David Bowers, it's written by Bowers and Jeff Kinney, based of course on the stories by Jeff Kinney, and we have a cast including Jason Drucker, Alicia Silverstone, Tom Everett Scott, Charlie Wright, and Owen Asztalos, and I did enjoy it, but it is by far the weakest of the four. And not because of the cast change. The cast change makes perfect sense. This one was released quite a few years after the previous film, but Greg is meant to be pretty much the same age. So the cast change didn't really bother me at all. But there were two reasons why I didn't love this, and I'll talk about those in a moment. The Heffley family are going on vacation. They're actually going to Meemaw's 90th birthday party. They're having a road trip, and there are various stops along the way, one of which I'll talk about in a moment. But Greg would rather be at this gaming convention, this video game convention. And he has a plan to maybe make that work. But obviously they're supposed to be going to Meemaw's. So where will they actually end up? I'm not going to answer that. I will say the narrative, I guess, is fine. The structure is fine. The pacing is fine. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. I will say when it comes to personal preference, before I go into any more detail, I don't like road trip films. There are very, very few films that are based on road trips that I actually like. None come to mind. I'm sure there have been some, but in general, as soon as I learn that a film is going to be largely set in a vehicle, I know that it's probably not going to be great for me. And yeah, we did have a few stops, but generally we spent a lot of time in the car, and those scenes for me were just so boring. So in terms of personal preference, it wasn't great. But I also think that there's another reason why it didn't work, or didn't work as well, and that's the absence of the character of Rowley. And that's not to say he needs to be in every scene in a Wimpy Kid film, but obviously because it's mostly on the family vacation, he's only in it a little bit, and I felt his absence. And I feel like he's such a great character, very funny, very likeable, and I just feel like we needed more of him. Maybe he could have gone with the family on their vacation. I don't know how they would have fit in the car, but I feel like having him in it would have made it a little bit better. He was in it a little bit, but not much. So in general, I'd say it's a very average film about family bonding and also not listening to each other. I won't say how this comes about, but there's a point when Greg's mother tells him that she doesn't that he doesn't listen to what she wants and what she thinks they should be doing as a family, which is fair enough. But Greg responds saying, well, she doesn't care about what he wants either, or what he's interested in. She's only interested in what she thinks family fun should look like. And I think that that's a really important message for parents to remember. Because, yes, you're in charge, but just because your child's interest doesn't interest you, it doesn't mean it's important to them. You can't demand that the child takes an interest in what you think would be fun if you're not willing to do the same for them. So I think that's a pretty brilliant message. We do go to one location that I did absolutely love, credit where it's due. I thought the country fair was an absolute delight. Great fun, really enjoyable. We spent a good amount of time there, and very brightly coloured and entertaining, and lots to look at, and I really enjoyed it. It did also make me want to try fried butter on a stick. Also, I feel like I probably shouldn't try that, but I can't even imagine what that would taste like. So that made me curious. But I definitely did enjoy that scene. There were a few other scenes here and there that I quite liked, but in general, the narrative isn't as interesting as the previous three films, and the characters are fine, the performances are pretty good, but I do think we needed Rowley. I think he needed to be in this. I just think he brings something so fun and innocent and adorable, and that's very much missing from this film. As I said, I don't have any problems with the recasting. I think it makes, well, for the kids at least, it makes perfect sense, and I think they fit the characters really well, so no problems there. I just find the road trip aspect to be very, very boring, and honestly, I didn't really find any of this to be that funny either. So for me, The Long Haul is the weakest of the four Wimpy Kid films, partly down to personal preference, but also I just don't think the narrative was that engaging anyway. But that being said, if you've seen the previous Wimpy Kid films and you've enjoyed them, then I do recommend this. I do think it's worth checking out. If you've not liked the previous films, you're probably not going to enjoy this unless perhaps there's somebody in it you'd like to watch it for. I'm glad I've seen it. And honestly, I am kind of sad that they didn't do any more live action films. The animated versions are fun. I do like those. But the live action films are quite sweet. The Long Haul isn't perfect. Definitely the weakest of the four. But actually, it's still pretty okay.